All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakodash. I want to give the honors to my apostle and elders, great millstone, who teach very well, while I this truth from. And salutation out there to the hopeful elect, who continue to push this word in our truth, faith, and sincerity. And on today, man, just basically getting on this matriarch society, because this is actually scriptures being fulfilled. Esau have totally turned the world upside down. The reason why all these crazy things is happening upon the planet Earth is because everything is out of order. That's one of the major reasons why the so-called white man have to be taken out. Another reason he gave the black woman rank. Ultimately, they got her as the head of the household when it comes to taxes, or whether it be through government assistance. It gives them the big head to think that, yeah, we don't need men, but ultimately you do, man. And it's not just because we say it. No, it's the order of Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai. And that's what these women hate, really, is the order of the Lord. Let's get this in 1 Corinthians 11:3, because their Tyler Perry spirit is running rapid throughout the whole planet Earth. It caused disorder. It's caused rebellion. Ultimately, it makes the next generation fail because, the ultimate, not the ultimate role, but one of the more beautiful roles of a woman, bear children and everything and raise children up the right way. But 9 times out of 10, especially when it comes to the, Black Latinos and Native American women, even though they have their children, they put BS in their child mind. You use the child saying you growing up, for the lack of better words, and the child growing up, and all the thing he sees is you arguing on the phone, gossiping, and pushing forth the manly spirit, and you telling him, hey, you better put that woman first. When you get a good girl, make sure you treat her right. But she don't tell you about the back in the days when she was a hard or a one-ton woman, man. And you don't. And that guy Corey Holcomb made a bad point, man. You don't really become a man till you realize that your mama was full of shit. And it's not no bad thing. No, you love her to death, but at the same time, this is a spirit that's in every woman, man. Matter of fact, before I get this, let's get this in Ecclesiastes 7, and I'm gonna start at verse 25. It says, I applied my heart to know and to search and to seek out wisdom and the reason of things, to know that the wickedness of folly, even the foolishness in madness. And when you deal with women, especially, for lack of better words, you can realize they really is in the child mindset. You get her nails done, you gotta say, ooh, I like your hair, different things like that. There ain't nothing wrong with that, but at the same time, it's like taking care of a child. Let's go ahead and continue on though. It says, and I find more bitter than death the women whose heart is snares and nets. Now you go into the word heart, it actually goes back into the word law. Because they think about a whole bunch of crazy things, man. You bleed once a month. Those hormones and chemicals combine and smash together. All of a sudden she tripping now, but at the same time, the Lord accounted her as the weaker vessel. Now, one thing, why would you try to put the weaker vessel on the front line? That's what Esau did by trying to make the black woman the head of the household. Now the household is out of order. Now your son grown up to be either a gangster or either a mo. Or he could be a mix between the two. That's how crazy and wicked this society is. Read this again. And I find more bitter than death the women whose heart is snares and nets, in her hands as bands. Whoso pleases the Most High shall escape her, but the sinner shall be taken by her. Yes, that's why it says, he that pleases the Most High shall escape her, because we have the wisdom and knowledge to know, like, because again, you can't get entrapped by a woman, because if you do, you also gonna forget about your how about Shimon. The only woman that we worry about over here is Sophia, which is that wisdom, that knowledge and understanding to realize and understand what's going on. Let's go ahead and continue on. But this I found, saith the preacher, counting one by one to find the account which my soul seeketh. but I found not one man among 1,000 have I found. And that's a real heavy point. Out of 1,000 men that you go around, you're going to really find one. It's really going to the elect, the 144,000. But let's continue on. But a woman among all those have I not found. And it's more women than men in the earth. I'm not saying, it's sisters, that listen to us and, they're humble. But that's needle in a haystack, man, because 9 times out of 10, a lot of women that was raised up in this Western society is wicked as hell, man. And it's not that they're wicked just because they're Israelite. No, they was brought up in the customs of the West, and that's what their mind is used to, man. They was used to growing up to seeing Big Mama, cuss out Uncle Leroy. They was used to seeing women disrespect men, and for the lack of a better word, it has become the norm. But it's not, man. That shit is out of order and it's sick. It really destroys a nation. That's why you're going to Micah 7. Let's get that in Micah 7, man. Because that's even a part of our punishment too, our women being out of order. Because if your woman was in order, everything would be, it wouldn't be smooth, but it'll be, for the lack of better words, less of a blow. I mean, it's hard when you get your ass whooped at home. Now you got to come home to a nagging voice, man. Let's get this in the book of Micah 7, and I'm going to jump down to verse 10. It says, I'm going to start at verse 9, so I like it. It says, let me get this in the KJV. I can please bear with me. Because again, the Lord have made us to be punished in this society. So it's a reason why a woman is not in order. Micah 7, let's start at verse 9. It says, I will bear the indignation of the Lord because I have sinned against him. That's the reason why we're in the West. We went into slavery and, we went off. So ultimately, this is a punishment that the Lord have put us through. Let's go and continue on until he plead my cause and execute judgment for me. So you just got to sit there and take it, because this is something that you deserve. It says he will bring me forth to the light, which is his understanding, and I shall behold his righteousness. And ultimately we see why this place have to be destroyed, man, because righteousness is not executed here. Let's go and continue on. It says, then she that is my enemy shall see it, and shame shall cover her, which said unto me, where is the Lord thy power? Yes, because ultimately, a lot of times, when you introduce this truth into women, they it's either two things: they're going to accept it, then they're going to hop on them, man. Brothers been through that before, especially in real heavy in their younger years. Every woman you got, you try to make her the Sarah, you know what I'm saying? You try to make her Abigail, but ultimately they are used to being in America, man. They don't see the good things that Yahweh Shai have coming for us. Ultimately they don't have the patience. It says, mine eyes shall behold her. Now shall she be trodden down as the mire of the streets. Why? Because these women in this society, for the lack of better words, being a matriarch society. Now you go on to this word matriarch, it goes into a mother or a woman who heads a family or tribe. Again, the woman being the head of a household would totally leave things out of order, because now she thinks she tougher than nails, man. But it tells you this right here. This is Isaiah the 3rd chapter, because again, you think that the Lord is just going to sit back and let bygones be bygones, and now you get the ruin. No, man. Ultimately, the Lord is going to give you what you desire. And ultimately you desire to be a man, so the Lord going to give you a manly destruction or a manly judgment. Because going times into the times of Jacob's trouble, it's not going to be a time where you can say, yeah, chill out, or you can call the police, because that's what they depend on, the government, Esau, Edom. But it's going to be a time when that judgment is going to come forth. And the only thing that's going to save you is a man, not just a man of the Lord. It says, rise up, ye women that are at ease. Hear my voice, ye careless daughters. Give ear unto my speech. Now, yes, we know that Israelites as a whole is known as, women. But for lack of better words, what the women was doing, what Israel was doing as a whole towards the Yahweh Shai, cheating on them, talking shit, rebellion, talking back, And also what the Lord did, he punished them. And that's the times that we're coming in, and the times of Jacob's trouble. He even tells you that Yahweh when he was going on a cross, he said, don't weep for me, weep for your children, because he's seen the things that was ahead. And that's the same spirit now. Go ahead and continue on though. It says, many days and years shall you be troubled. Yes. Because you trusted in the government, you was at ease, you thought everything was going to be okay. I got a good job and I'm working and I could do this and I could do that. You can gather abroad in America. Ye careless women, for the failed vintage shall fail, the gathering shall not come. So America will not always be as it is now, man. You're getting that check or whatever. It's going to be a time when the Lord is going to cut your water off and you're just going to be out there, man. It says, tremble ye women that are at ease, be troubled, ye careless ones, strip you and make ye bare, gird up your sackcloth upon your loins. Now, again, sackcloth is to represent mourning. But the Lord said he's going to strip you and make you bare. He's going to show you that you're a woman. He's going to show you that you're the weaker vessel. And he's going to show you that you should have never trusted in America, man. You should have never trusted in America, Babylon the Great, because that's the reason why we're in this position that we are in now. That's why a woman can't raise a household. That's why you go on the taxes. When she do her taxes, it's a head of the household. Now she feel better about her. Now I'm the head, But ultimately, with actions like that, it ultimately trickles down into the destruction of our whole nation, man. And this is something that Esau have mastered here. This is not nothing new. This is not nothing that he just made up in the early 2000s. No, he's been doing this plan since the time of Genesis. Now we can go to Genesis 3 and verse 1. It says, and the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord Yahweh Shemawashah power have made. Yes, because that serpent right there is not actually a snake. You can say it's a snake ass nigga, for lack of better words, man. And that snake ass nigga in the garden was the so-called white man. He said unto the woman, yeah, hath the Most High said, ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden. Now, that's why he said unto the woman. Why he didn't say the man? The woman actually came from the man. It came from the rib or whatever, but from his line, for lack of better words. But at the same time, the woman is the weaker vessel. And Esau put the scopeo upon the woman because he knew this is the lady. She birthed the kids. She breastfeed them, and the kids would be more willing to listen to a woman at a certain age. And then they start listening to their father. So Esau played on that. The scriptures say, raise up a child that he shall go, and he will not depart from it when he's older. Even you can say that's in righteousness, but even in wickedness, man. You can actually raise up your child to talk too damn much, But at the same time, let's go ahead and continue on. And the woman said unto the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden. Now, that fruit is not talking about apples and oranges and tangerines. We got dragon fruit. That's the devil fruit. We won't touch that. No, man. That fruit is talking about these different philosophies. And the philosophy that Esau have given unto our women is this matriarch philosophy, man, where the mother will rule over the whole household, which ultimately destroys the household. Now you go into patriarch, it goes, and even then, one of the Old Testament fathers, right there, got a biblical sense to it, showing you it's righteous, man. Goes back, chief head of the family. You don't say a man that's a head, the chief head of the family. Part of clan father to rule. And these are things supposed to be naturally, even once you go into different nations. You don't never see, well, you see it sometimes, but it's not no regular occurrence of a Moabite woman getting out of order towards some man. Or Edomite women getting out of order towards some man, because they are in order. They're in their natural estate, But here in this society, Black women are basically studs, man, and dykes, even though they taking, they want to do, they take the ride and everything. They have that manly spirit that you can't tell them that. Like they gonna try to test you, man. But at the end of the day, Yahweh Shema Shai is doing this to punish us, man. Let's go ahead and continue on. It says, and the woman said unto the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, the Most High said, ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die. So she had the instructions of what to do and what not to do, man. But again, you got it to her ear. Again, on women is easily manipulated, for lack of better words, and Esau know that. And the serpent said unto the woman, ye shall not surely die, for the Most High doth know that in the day that ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be open, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. So she, he told her a lie. He told her a little bit of the truth. Then he told her a whole bunch of lies, man. And again, this this thing that he's doing today in the form of Section 8, because in certain senses, you can't receive certain government benefits if a man live in your house, man. Go ahead and see what's on, though. And the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and it was pleasant to the eyes. Yes, so it looked good. It sounded good, because you have to realize back then, Eve, she was in order, and they never seen wickedness, man. And one thing about a woman, when she sees something new, whether it be a purse or a new set of nails or a new color or whatever, she gonna desire it, no matter if it's good for you or bad for you, man. That's why you see a lot of women get strung out on drugs because they'll be with a dude tell them don't do it, and she want to do it anyway because a man doing it, man. Or somebody else doing it. It seems cool. Now she wanted going back into that child mindset. You really have to look over a child, either they'll kill themselves. And that's what spiritually happened to Eve back then. The serpent seen her alone, and he gave her a spiritual gun to destroy herself, man. And let's go read this again. It says, and it was pleasant to the eyes. So that's like pleasant to the flesh. And a tree desired to make one wise. She took up the fruit thereof and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat. And Esau know like the best way to get to a man is through his woman. Even I know down here in Alabama, it's girls that they'll pay to set somebody up. That happened across throughout the whole world. But this MO is nothing new. This is something old, man. What was meant for 4 times 3 learning. So Esau knew in order to make Adam fall, we got to make his woman fall too, man. We got to make her fall first, and she's going to bring him down. It says, and their eyes were both open, and they knew they were naked, and they sewed leaves together and made aprons upon themselves. That's pretty much it. Let's go and continue on, though. It says, and they heard the voice of the Lord, Yahweh Shema Shai, walking in the midst of the garden in the cool of the day, and Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord power amongst the trees of the garden. So they knew it was going on. And the Lord, Yahweh Shema Shai, called unto Adam and said, where art thou? And he said, I heard thy voice of the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked and I hid myself. And because Adam, the only thing he knew was righteousness, but once he got introduced to wickedness, man. And he said, who told thee that thou was naked? Hast thou eaten the tree whereof I command thee that thou should not eat? Yes, didn't I tell you not to go into the ways of the heathen? Didn't I tell you not to go into this wicked society, even though it might look good, it might feel cool or whatever, Didn't I tell you not to do that? And the man said, the women whom thou gavest me, that's, y'all came one flesh, and the woman thou gavest to be with me, she gave me the tree to eat. And the Lord Yahweh Shema Shai said unto the woman, what hast thou done? And the woman said, the serpent beguiled me, and I did eat. And this still happening today, man. The serpent is still beguiling Eve, and they still eating that shit today, man. You didn't learn from your great ancestors. Eve, because black women love to go into that BS. But you didn't learn from Eve that you the reason why we fell as a nation. And even though it was written in history, was written for the glorification of Yahweh Shai. It was a necessary evil. At the same time, Esau knew who to go to. Let's go to 1 Timothy 2 and verse 11. It says, let the woman learn the silence with our subjection. And the reason why, because what happened in Genesis, the 3rd chapter, continuing on, but I suffer not a woman to teach. Now that means not teach the scriptures, man. She ain't nothing wrong with teaching your kids, teaching how to cook. Your woman can teach you a recipe. Jacob being, you can't teach me nothing. I know how to cook that, Jake being that spirit or something like that. You can't be over righteous. But at the same time, he says he suffered not a woman to teach, nor to usurp authority over a man, but to be in silence. And this ultimately meaning to be in order, man. For Adam was first formed, then Eve, and Adam was not deceived, but the woman being deceived, yes, she was all in her feelings and shit, was in the transgression. And that's how sin came into the world, man. But again, Eve being in their feelings, Eve feeling like they could do bad all by themselves, ultimately destroy us, as the people. Let's get this real quick. This is the book of Sirach 20. This is the book of Sirach 26. I'm gonna start at verse 6. It says, but a grief of heart and sorrow is a woman that is jealous over another woman. And there's black women all day, man. It says, in the scourge of the tongue which communicateth withal. Yes, talking shit, gossiping. An evil wife is a yoke shaken to and fro. She don't know what she want, and he that hold her is as though he hold a scorpion. So you getting stung all day. You can't do right. You can't do wrong, man. No, you can't do right. You can only do wrong. It's even you try to pick up a scorpion, you try to help it out. It's damn near on his deathbed. It's still going to sting you. A drunken woman and they gather a bride. Now that drunken woman, you can say, yeah, she on that alcohol, but really drunken with the philosophies of America. That matriarch bull BS, man. And they gather a bride causes great anger. Yes, why? Because it's out of order, man. And she will not cover her own shame. Ultimately, you're not gonna have manners. Not manners, but even look out for yourself, man. Because the woman, she get mad, she make herself look a fool. I seen that recently, inside the store. Women acting all crazy, yelling, and she like it's like she's snapping or whatever. I told you off on some stuff like that, but everybody else in the store looking at you like you crazy. Everybody else in the store looking like we should gather the stones together and put this evil out of Israel. But at the same time, you being raised in this Western society, it's the norm for things like that to happen, man. Black women, black strong women. I never heard of Asian strong women or white strong women. No, because they know they need their husband. That independent spirit that these women push forth out in Israel is destroying us, man. And that's why, when we get into the kingdom of heaven, bro, we're going to have, the righteous sisters there, but, we're going to procreate, have sex with these different heathen women. Because, only thing that matters is the man, the seed, bro. It says the woman, so like the whoredom of a woman may be known in her haughty looks, in her eyelids. When you go to Maury and different things like that, a lot of times it be black women on it, man. But it starts from with their whoredom and how it looks. Ultimately, black women, they're the biggest porn category, showing you what Esau think of you, and ultimately what you think of your damn self, man. It says, if thy daughter be shameless, keep her in straightly, be disciplined on her, lest she abuse herself through overmuch liberty. Yes. Because ultimately, if you don't raise her in order, she's going to turn out to be a Cardi B, a sexy red. And now you're going to the early 2020s all the way up right now. Women rappers have been the most popular things, but the things they push it forth towards the youth is thinking but sex and shaking ass and selling drugs, man. It's not even no conscious, because sometimes you have like a conscious rapper, a nigga like J. Cole or some shit like that. Let's say we go to Roots, Black Thoughts or whatever. It's not no conscious female rapper telling you how to cook and clean and be in order. No, man. They telling you 7 p.m. Fridays, 95 degrees. She ain't got no nigga, and the nigga ain't got me, man. You know? But that ultimately leads into what? The downfall of our nation, man. And Israel is considered to be a common and delicate woman. But the ways our women are acting, the way our women are acting today is the same way we act towards the Lord, man. You know? Let's go ahead and continue on. It says, watch over her and impute it. So like watch over and impute it I and marvel not if she transpassed against thee. Yes, don't marvel if she tripped. Why? Because the scripture said it. That's why it's comfort in the scriptures. But ultimately, you know, ain't like they're going to be in this state forever. Because it's going to be a day, a time, a minute, and second, you know, when they come back in the kingdom of heaven. And they're going to be in their righteousness, man. They're going to be perfect. You know, because a lot of times, bro, it's not like, yeah, they just wicked, they just wicked, they just wicked. They have a demon on them. You have to, you know, understand it. It's a demon on them that's blocking them from being in their righteous state. You know, but once they die and they come back again in the kingdom of heaven, everything will be beautiful, man. Let's go ahead and jump down. Let's go right here. Here you go. It says, a woman that honored her husband shall be judged wise of all. And it's beautiful because, you know, Israel, we are the Lord's woman. So we honoring Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. We're going to be judged wise of all. But she that dishonored him in her pride, America, that American mindset shall be ungodly of all. Yeah, so you can do it in, you know, 2 ways, because a woman who honors her husband shall be judged wise of all. You're a good wife, he eating good and things like that, children in order, you know. But she that dishonored her in her pride, the pride of life, America, being wrapped up in the ways you was born in the West, she shall be counted ungodly of all. So ultimately, you're going to get destroyed. You're going to be counted as a damn 2/3. So yeah, I just pray this video was edifying. We give our praise and glory. Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, Bahashem, Rachakodash. I want to give that honors to my apostle and elders, great millstone, and Shalom.